Um, your friend Wike recently described you as an internet lawyer. So this exchange you had with him, not really an exchange. You responded to him, and he lashed out as. What do you make of him and a character like him in the federal capital, especially with what we saw when the Prime Minister of India came and his behavior? What do you make of him?
Look, I respect the office of the Minister for the FCT because it's a very important office in the country. The FCT is a symbol of Nigeria's coexistence. And precisely because of that, I think we've got to hold the feet of the occupant of the office on fire, to fire at any point in time. We've got to ask the person to comport themselves in ways that do credit to the sovereign standing of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's not a republic for you or I or the minister alone. It's the republic for all of us and for everyone who is going to subsequently be part of that republic, and for those who have come before us. Now, look, internet lawyer, where do people get their information now, material? Is it not on the internet or internet professor? So I'm not at all worried about being described as internet lawyer. He uses devices and he relies on the internet every day, right? Now, so he's not denying my credentials as a lawyer. So I'm not interested. Wike became a lawyer in 1998. By that time, I had been a lawyer for over 10 years, in Nigeria at least, right? And I have put in work in all manner of places. I have never been paid a salary by the Nigerian government or any institution in Nigeria except as a youth corper. I want Wike to say the same thing. The man has not had a legitimate life outside the Nigerian state. Okay? So I can understand the inferiority complex of someone like that, whose entire existence has been dependent on sucking from the feeding bottle, from the sovereign feeding bottle of Nigeria. Entirely. Legitimately and illegitimately. I can. Because Wike cannot tell me. If he can, let him please do so. But Wike cannot tell me that everything he has acquired and owns at the moment can be accounted for in terms of the legitimate earnings that he has had, number one, as a local government chairman, number two, as a chief of staff to the River State governor, number three, as a minister of a junior minister for education under President Jonathan, number four, as a governor of River State for 2 terms, and now as the FCT minister. If he can add up his earnings legitimately, including allowances legitimately, and be able to account for his acquisitions in terms of those legitimate earnings, let him say so. I can account for what I own and anything credited to me in terms of my legitimate earnings. I want Wike to say the same thing. If he can say that, I will be on the same pedestal. If he cannot, I am superior to him.
Hello, welcome. My name is Soludo Onitsha. Our guest today is the 2025 Courtroom Male Man of the Year, Professor Chidi Odinkalu. In its citation, the panel highlighted the extraordinary work he has done in demanding accountability for those who administered Nigeria's justice system, noting that Chidi Odinkalu has refined the art of speaking difficult truths. He does not appear to be motivated by the pursuit of favors, titles, or professional advancement. That places him in a rare category of lawyers willing to speak openly about the deep-rooted challenges facing both the legal profession and the justice system in Nigeria. Professor Odinkalu is a professor of international human rights law at the Fletcher School of Law at Tufts University. He's a globally respected human rights scholar, former chairman of Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, and a leading public intellectual on law, governance, and democratic integrity. With decades of experience in justice sector reform and a keen understanding of the relationship between institutions and the people they serve, he brings clarity to complex political and constitutional crises. He's also the author of the recent book, The Selectorate: When Judges Topple the People, a compelling examination of how legal and political elites shape who truly holds power in a democracy. Known for his analytical precision and independence of thought, Professor Odinkalu's insights cuts through the noise. He joins us today to help us better understand what is truly at play in Nigeria at this critical moment. Please help me in welcoming to the show Professor Chidi Odinkalu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, my brother. I hope you're good.
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
It's February 1st.
Yeah, February, the first show in the month of February. A lot of people are excited to have you with us, and we have to get to several things in the news. I want to start with what's in today's papers. I'm looking at the papers today, and everything is all about 2027. Politics of people joining this party or the other party, electoral reforms, trouble with local governments, administration. Looking at that, the headlines of our Nigerian papers today, I'm not sure if you've seen them, but these are the topics. What do you make of the state of the country politically?
Yeah, it's interesting you ask this. I've become used to looking for what is not there rather than what is there. And in that spirit, the biggest story for me is what is not being reported in the Nigerian papers today. And it is that in the 37 days since 27th of December, President Tinubu has been in Nigeria for not more than 7 days. He's been away for about 30 days. And so that for me is the biggest story. And nobody is discussing it. Right? It's not in the newspapers. The opposition parties, more than any other thing, are not talking about it. And you cannot run, and it's not just that he has been in the country, been away from the country for over a month on the 1st of February. It is that as we speak, he is unaccounted for. Nobody knows where he is.
He just arrived in the country last night, I believe. I saw a story that he came back last night. That's the
that's if that is what it is, fantastic. But that story does not appear to have traveled far. So it's probably from one source. I mean, the president cannot steal back into the country. And the other thing, of course, is there's a period between the supposed end of his state visit to Turkey and yesterday night, in which he's unaccounted for. And, whether or not you like or agree with Tinubu, he is Nigeria's president. And the president needs to be accounted for at all times. The fact that the newspapers have taken a holiday from ensuring accountability for the whereabouts of the president and what the president is up to, and the opposition parties are gallivanting for all you care, I mean, I can understand the ruling party not wanting people to call attention to that, but I really cannot understand why the opposition parties cannot hold the feet of the country to the fire on this issue and hold the administration accountable for that. That, for me, is the biggest story.
I understand that, but this is something I had issue with when he was announced as the winner of the election, and he disappeared in France. He went to France. I raised the issue with a lot of people, Nigerians, and they all said, "Oh, he is not yet the president. We don't need to know what he's doing, where he's going." And I was concerned because if that is how he was going to carry on at that point, um, it will continue. And it appears as if we've not learned. Buhari did similar things, disappear, and nobody knew where he was. And incidentally, people who were questioning Buhari for doing the same thing are now the people who are saying this is not important. It doesn't matter whether, which I don't know if you understand that. I don't. You can help us.
I honestly don't either. But there are lots of things that the same people have walked back now because they are part of the presidential court. Um, and I totally agree with you. I also did, in separate conversations, raise similar issues with my own circle of friends about the idea that, I can understand someone who's been through a backbreaking national campaign, and then at the end of it all, the person wants to take a break. But you can't, he took an extended retreat to France, and quite honestly, by the time he was sworn in, he wasn't ready to govern. So I would have thought that the reason to take a break is to recalibrate and get ready and hit the ground running on the first minute of the first second of the first minute of the first day. That clearly wasn't the case. He later said, every administration is not a one-man band, and you need time and all of that. And here we are. We are in election season, effectively, and it's still the same pattern.
Yeah, the issue of traveling across the world and not being at home is one that is also very concerning to people who are feeling that Nigeria needs a president who should be at home to deal with numerous issues going on in the country, but he's not there. But that's also something that he doesn't even talk to the country. In certain instances where something is happening, and people excuse these things. And this is my concern. I want to know if I'm the one that is crazy. If you excuse it for Tinubu, will you excuse it for the next president? Are you not setting up the same pattern that we've seen? When do we break away from this? And that's the center of the conversation I want us to have, beyond just the specific incidents today of what about how do we move away from this pattern of low expectation by our own people?
You're complaining about low expectation. It is no expectation. The fact that we have to be grateful for being treated terribly and being impoverished of both dignity and of means. And it's rather interesting because this comes from a party that was extraordinarily voluble in the opposition, right? APC was spectacularly good at the business of opposition. They created uptakes, they created cadence, they created decibels from absolutely nothing. Now, to being in power and completely treating the people as expendable. Now, look at the US launch of projectiles, of missiles in Nigeria on Christmas Day of all days. Now, after that took place, President Tinubu shows up at Ayo in Lagos. He telephoned Anthony Joshua in hospital while he was recovering from that terrible crash. And he issued a press release to commiserate, and rightfully so, I think, with Chimamanda on the death tragically, of her baby child And he just somehow forgot that the United States had launched missiles on the Nigerian territory. And until today, as we speak, he has not remembered that that event happened. This today is what the 38th day since that event, and the president has absolutely not said one word about it to Nigerians. In that period, he has traveled to France, I believe, twice. He has been in Abu Dhabi. He's been in Turkey. He's been anywhere but close to those parts where that happened. And that cannot be the way to run a country. I'm sorry.
Now, you mentioned that, and I thought about the coup, the so-called coup that happened. We don't have all the details, but the military now, they're acknowledging what was reported long ago, that there was a coup and they have people they've arrested. You mentioned that, at least that should deserve a president talking to us, talking to the Nigerian people. Somebody wanted to kill me. Somebody wanted to overthrow your government, the one you elected. He didn't think that was possible. That was necessary. That was. And the political elites, even forget about the people in his party, because I know they are doing his bidding. They don't want to say anything or do anything that he wouldn't like. But the opposition, you mentioned that they are not doing well the way you wanted them to do. Why do you think that is? Is it that they don't have the skills, or people who know that it's an opportunity for them to educate Nigerians on best practice, the standard, give an example of what they would do if they were in power?
I honestly don't have a clue. I don't know what's wrong with them. Many of them were part of the PDP until 2015, and I guess, you could easily say, okay, they were in shock at having been booted out of power in 2015, and therefore needed to learn and they've not learned. They've been so cozy in power, they hadn't learned the business of opposition. But after more than 12 years, into the 13th year out of power, I presume that they would have learned on the job of opposition, but clearly they have not. It's the Nigerian opposition is bereft of ideas, bereft of anchors, values, and principles, and bereft of a message. You cannot be in this position. The missile strike, nothing from the government. The tax, the scandal of the forged tax law, nothing. The coup, nothing. A visiting, as an academic, of course, you understand the phenomenon of a visiting professor. And now we have a visiting president in Nigeria, and all of that is taking place, and not one word from the president of acknowledgement, of explanation, of empathy, of rallying the country. And the opposition, and for me, really, it is the opposition. Look, if you had a viable opposition, Tinubu will be forced to retool. At the moment, he believes that there is no opposition, so he has got no problem, and he doesn't have to account to Nigerians. That's my beef with this current situation.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to the coup. From what you've read about it, what is your take on what happened? Why those officers tried to overthrow a democratically elected government?
Well, look, I've never participated in a coup before. The only uniform I've worn is my school uniforms as a child and the NYSC khaki, right? So I can't tell you what's in the minds of soldiers who do these things, or who are accused of doing these things, because I think it's important that we also retain distance and perspective, and allow this story to unfold. First, as you rightly said, they denied it. As in the Nigerian authorities denied it. Now they say that General Jandaye and his folks at the Defense Intelligence Agency have concluded investigations and wrapped up their reports. And they say there is a coup. 45 people allegedly have been arrested. Most of them are soldiers. One brigadier general somewhere in Abuja, right? A colonel or two, lieutenant colonels here and there, a squadron leader here, lieutenant commander there, and a few majors. Of course, squadron leader, major, lieutenant commander are all the same rank in different services. Now, I was also checking somewhere on one of the reports about what they say has been seized or recovered in the process of the investigation. They said 2 gun trucks, I believe, some 1 or 2 anti-aircraft guns, some RPGs, I believe, AK-47s, I don't know how much, some ammo rounds, I don't know how many either. And then some other things, 4 Toyota Hilux vans, 1 Prado, 32 Volkswagen Golf vehicles, and I think, did they say a salon vehicle or 2 of the Toyota brand? Now, it strikes me as a bloody civilian and nothing else. The idea of trying to execute a coup with 2 gun trucks is very impressive, right? And to execute a coup with soldiers, mid-ranking soldiers who don't have any command at their disposal. So I'm keeping an open mind about this, but having said I'm keeping an open mind, I'm also not an idiot, right? So yes, I'd like to see a story that adds up. The military, soldiers are a lot of things, but soldiers are not stupid, and soldiers are not suicidal. Now, you don't do a coup with Volkswagen Golf vehicles, right? So this story, putting out this story, and we have seized 32 Volkswagen Golf. On the part of whoever is putting it out is poor propaganda, right? This is my honest view as a citizen. Okay, 1 Toyota Prado. Come on, Nigeria is 923,000 square kilometers. Actually, it's just under 924,000 square kilometers. So 4 Hilux vans and 1 Prado and 32 Golf vehicles surely cannot give you the basic logistics of coup architecture. President Buhari, by the way, was the head of the military corps, the transport corps of the military. That's why people called him the National Union of Road Transport Workers of the Nigerian military, right? But he was he led the transport corps of the military in the 1975 coup, and putting together a transport logistics plan for a territory as vast as Nigeria is not that easy. It's also the case that the army in the country is now a heck of a lot more sophisticated in terms of, or the military generally, in terms of its architecture, in terms of its lay of the land. You've got 8 divisions at the moment of the army, just to begin with, from across all the 6 geopolitical zones. You now have 3 naval commands where you had 2 before. You have different formations in the Air Force, and you have many more establishments within the military besides. And being able to take those on requires a heck of a lot more than the kinds of things that have been put out. As I said, I'm keeping an open mind, but I'm not stupid. When I see a credible coup story, one that at least begins to make sense at a logical level, I think I will understand it. I'll put it that way. And of course, in the midst of all of that, there is then the additional story that amongst the 45 arrested is one Stanley Amandi or something, who used to lead the guild of
Actors.
Nollywood actors in Enugu State. Now, in the midst of all these Umarus and Muhammads and Yahayas and all of that, you pluck this guy, and in the list of supposed accused persons or suspects in this thing, because a court martial has not yet been propounded. But in the midst of all of that, they then put this person forward and label him propagandist, right? That's the thing they've put to him. How you hire an actor, all right, to be the propagandist, an actor from Enugu to be the propagandist for a coup plot against a president from the Southwest, with the alleged masterminds absolutely all from the northern geopolitical zones of the country, will require some explaining when they begin to put their material together. So let me keep an open mind still.
Now, the part of it that troubled me was, or concerned me, was that they canceled the Independence Day ceremony because of this, I believe. They knew that this was in the offing, that they were not sure of whether they got the people or everybody that was involved. But in terms of behavior, if I wanted to think about this as someone in their positions, and because it didn't make sense to me, if there was a plan to overthrow your government, and it failed, you were lucky. They did not change their behavior from the people that were listed as people that would have been killed. Like the president, the speaker, the leader of the Senate. None of them changed their behavior. They continue to act the same way. What sense does that make? If really you were worried that they were about to kill you for not leading the country well.
As I said, I'd like to keep an open mind about this, without keeping a stupid mind or inheriting a stupid mind. But the way these people are carrying on suggests they are confident that there is no option. The country has nowhere to go. But even worse, that they do not owe the country any obligations. They can simply do whatever they want, when they want, how they want, without consequences, political, legal, or any other means. And that says as much about the people in government as it also says, if not more, about the people who are offering themselves as alternatives to them. It doesn't say that there is a lot coming from the alternatives.
You mentioned the tax law that was altered. When the story came up, the government side, they said nothing like that happened. Eventually, the lawmakers said that it happened. And it should have been a big deal in some other places, even in Africa. But in Nigeria, it's been swept away. And I was thinking about this, that most of the people in the National Assembly, at least, most of them I think they are lawyers or were lawyers. Most of the people who, how do you build a foundation based on foundation where you don't even obey the laws that you pass, and how do you build a country around that?
I wish I could tell you. Look, the Senate president sat 2 seats in front of me in the Nigerian law school. So at least I can testify that he has schoolmates, right? Yes, and I'm one of them. And I know, he went to Federal Government College, Port Harcourt. And now the majority leader is a lawyer, okay? He used to be president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, by the way. The minority leader, Kingsley Chinda, is a lawyer, right? He used to practice in Port Harcourt. So that's the minority leader in the House of Reps, right? Now, and this is just a sampling. And none of these people appear evidently worried about the fact, now quite well established beyond any shadow of doubt, that the piece of legislation, and it's not just any piece of legislation, tax law, which is the heart of the legitimacy of the state. And it's 4 different pieces of tax legislation, supposedly passed in one go, were altered between having been passed by the National Assembly and being signed into law by the president, with the result that lots of things were inserted which were not part of what the National Assembly passed. And rather than be worried about that and prioritize it for attention and accountability, they are carrying on as if nothing has happened. And instead, you've got Taiwo Oyedele, whose brief in government continues to baffle me, flummox me beyond any form of understanding. Taiwo goes around from studio to studio, basically calling every Nigerian stupid and projecting himself as if he's the only person who's gone to school and who understands anything about tax laws, which may well be the case, except that he does not understand, he does not appear to understand anything about legislation. So he may well be the world's greatest architect of tax and tax laws and fiscal regimes, but he doesn't clearly appear to know anything about how the legislative process works. Because if he does, he will not be insulting people the way he is. And if he does know anything about the way government works, he will understand that he's exceeding any sensible understanding of what his brief is supposed to be. He's a consultant in government. He's not a minister. He does not have departmental responsibilities. He cannot go around appearing to take responsibility for things that only people who are in government and who have gone through the processes of both clearance and induction into government have responsibility for. But Taiwo is the person who's accounting for this. And if you take a look at it, you'll see that there is nobody in government who is taking responsibility for what's happened. Not the president, not the Minister for Finance, who is also supposed to be coordinating minister for the economy, and I suspect fiscal policy should be part of that. It's not Zaka Dedeji in what used to be FIRS. I don't know what is now called Nigerian Revenue Service, isn't it? It's not anybody with departmental or agency responsibility in government, not even an advisor on economic affairs in the presidency. No, it is Taiwo, who is still a consultant in the private sector. That is the most worrying thing about this, that the government is operating this as if it is a mechanism of organized crime.
Mm. Now, you said something about being in the same law school with Akpabio, and something crossed my mind. Did you go to school with Omotosho, the judge that delivered?
God forbid. No,
I'm just trying to find out, because I know we will get to the law practice and the legal system in Nigeria and your book eventually, but thinking about that, I know we've not talked to you since that judgment on Nnamdi Kanu. What do you make of that in the context? You know, people tell me that we should forget about how eloquent he was or was not, but what do you make of that judgment? As a lawyer, you know, he showed the world, this is how our judges, this is our judges, this is a representation of our judges in Nigeria. What do you make of that?
Well, look, I think the case is now on appeal. Kanu has filed his notice of appeal with the help of his consultants, legal consultants, so-called, and I'd like to allow them to have their day in court. I mean, you know, discussing the Nnamdi Kanu trial will take a heck of a lot more time than we have here. But no, I didn't go to. Omotosho was called to the bar long after I went to the law school. No disrespect, but no, my generation. You know, we may disagree amongst my generation of lawyers about details, but at least we do agree that there were some standards. And those standards, I'd like to think we mostly still take very seriously. I mean, even in private conversations with the Senate president, he would admit a few things he may not, in the company of his political friends, admit publicly. There are some things, and I think that's part of what I actually wrote about this week. There are some things that are just unacceptable. this business of politicians traipsing to the houses of law of judges to discuss pending cases, agree judgments, or people going to court and hiring so-called judicial consultants who prepare judgments that then work their way into judicial decision making. All of that is strange. It was strange in my generation. It is strange to me still. And the idea that I'm supposed to now admit, conduct myself as if that is the way that these things are supposed to happen is entirely strange to me. And some of the things that happen in our courts, I'm not going to mention any specific names or any particular cases, these days are very strange. It is really that simple. They're alien to legal proceeding.
Without touching the substance, for ordinary people watching that, they talk about, I had people say to me, even if he didn't write the judgment, he had time. Did he practice reading that when he knew he was going to read it for the world to hear? And if that is the best he could do, why didn't was there any other way to find somebody else, knowing that this is something that the international community will listen to? And for those who do not know better, they would think that is the representation of Nigeria's legal
But maybe it is. Maybe it is. But the other thing is this. When I heard that on the morning of the judgment that they had convened television cameras to be in the court to beam the judgment to the world, of course, it was easy to tell anyone what the verdict was going to be. With all due respect to everyone, it suggested to me a court that was not in charge of itself. Right? Now, if you're going to beam a judgment live, then it seems to me that is not legal proceedings. That is manufactured theater. Because there's no way to transmit live judgment of proceedings where people have not been privy in the same way to the trial. Now, so if you want to, I have nothing, I'm all for beaming trials, okay? Now for giving oxygen of that kind of coverage to trials. But to do that, you have to give everyone access to the entire timeline of the trial so that people will be able to make sense of your judgment. But if having conducted your trial with no camera present, you wake up one morning suddenly and tell the world, we are ready for judgment today. Come and see, come and see. Something is wrong now. Okay? Yeah. I mean, that is the problem. And it is these subliminal messages that our system transmits about how crooked it is without a sense of accountability that makes people like me believe we can do better. Even when you want to be crooked, you can be a lot more professional about being crooked. That's really my thing here.
Okay. A while ago, you mentioned that the case of Nand is appealed now, and we are waiting for that to happen. Someone on the comment section, we know we don't do this a lot, they complain, but I want to just, before we move on, wants to know if the question was something about do people who represent themselves, are they allowed to appeal? Something like that. There's a question.
Of course, yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right.
And particularly when you're facing a life jail term, of course, you're entitled to appeal.
Okay. All right. So the next thing that we want to discuss, the political structure we have now. We are going into another election. We don't know if the National Assembly will be able to modify the electoral law before then to take care of some things that they all identified as something that must change if we're going to have a better election. On the part of the opposition party, we can see what's going on. Virtually everybody is joining the party in power, defecting. Some people are saying they are being coerced. Some people are saying that they are being induced. We don't know. But so what does that appear to be what we're going to see in 2027? What do you think from your own perspective? What's going on?
What is going on? It's what you've described. I can't say it better than you have said it. I don't know whether you saw Chidi Odinkalu's article today. An election in search, 2027, an election in search of candidates, right? And in many ways, he summed it up quite succinctly, with characteristic brilliance and clarity. They were in a situation now in which I guess the only person whom you can be sure has a platform is President Tinubu, at least at the presidential level. There is so much flux with reference to the other parties that it's not even certain who is going to be on the ballot, which other parties will be on the ballot, or if there will be other candidates on the ballot for the top, at the top of the ticket, with reference to the presidency. And part of that is, I hate to return to this, the complicity and capture of the judiciary. You've seen what's happened in the last 60 hours. The Federal High Court in Ibadan has issued a very impressive judgment, granting what was not in dispute in the case, basically declaring, handing the PDP back to Wike and his faction, or his band of claimants, Wike being the minister for the FCT. And that's now on appeal. By the time you resolve the appeal and go to the Supreme Court, you are probably in June at the earliest, if you're lucky, or even later than that. Whatever the outcome is, the party is not going to have the wherewithal to mount an effective presence in the electoral calendar. So you can rule that party out. Now, the ADC is the other, the emerging opposition coalition is not particularly in a much better situation. You may have noticed that there is a case that's worked its way into the same Federal High Court, now challenging the very existence of the ADC. No one knows how that's going to come out. But howsoever that happens, it's probably also going to end up an appeal, going up to the Supreme Court in all likelihood. So there is that. Labour Party has been mired in utter confusion, which forced Peter Obi, who was a presidential candidate, out of the party into the uncertain embrace of ADC. By the time, with the support of the judiciary and all manner of impressive judgments and orders, Mr. Abure managed to hang on as the chair of the party, a recognized chair of the party, until last week. Now, Nana-Adi Usman has been recognized, but that's a High Court decision. They are now going to work their way up to the Supreme Court with all the uncertainty that demands. In all of this, the Federal High Court is central to the confusion. The Federal High Court is headed by a man called John Soho, Terhamba Soho, who is the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. That's the man who in November 2023 led his brother and sister judges to go to the office of Wike, where Wike granted him the privilege, because it's on camera, of sitting to address him. And he was very grateful for having been allowed to address Wike, who became a lawyer in 1998, at which time Justice Soho was already a judge. And to beg Wike to allocate choice properties to them, to him and his judges in Abuja. The scandal of it all and the lack of dignity of it all beggars belief. But that is the person who assigns all these cases to the judges that decide all these things. And I say this not with an intention to make any allegation, because it's not necessary to do that. Everything I've said here is on camera. Okay, that's what happened. What he did with Wike is on camera. And the perception, because this is what is important here, the perception that is created with these events is of a court that is in the pocket of Wike and of the political coterie around him and of the administration. And there is no way they can deny that. Because of that, therefore, it is difficult to see how the political landscape is not going to suffer from that perception, particularly in a landscape where you've got extraordinary politicization of the judiciary and judicialization of politics, because those two are going hand in hand. And it is difficult to think about 2027 without thinking the judges will decide it. And if the judges are going to decide it, it can only go one way.
All right. Looking at this, I've seen a lot of videos of Nigerians who are showing their desperation, their lack of confidence in their ability to change anything, including coming out to vote, because they believe that the electoral reforms are not going to happen, that the politicians are going to rig the election. Most of them are giving up. Most of them are forming organizations. I saw one that is called people, I'm not sure now, but something about changing the amalgamation. They want to reverse the amalgamation of Nigeria. People are basically expressing their total disappointment and disillusionment that there's no solution. What do you say to those people who are looking at the political scene and they are not seeing any sign of hope?
Well, we've got to create our own hope. Nobody's going, there are no messiahs anymore. And, I think part of our problem is that we wimp out too much. We accord spectacular privileges to people who, like us, are all biodegradable, right? Just because they have temporal positions, we elevate them to deities and the divine. Yes, of course, the political landscape looks, can appear to induce despair. And I tell people, I don't attend anything on electoral reform at the moment because I don't think these current people can help with electoral reform. APC has an absolute majority right now in both houses of the National Assembly. With control of the governor's offices, or with governors in 29 states being members of the APC, they will be able to force through anything they want in most of the states of the country, right? Now, there may be exceptions. So you cannot ram anything through Kano, no matter what arrangements they have made with Abba Kabir Yusuf, because of the nature, historically, of Kano's politics. But Kano is an outlier in Nigeria in many ways, and there are different other places where they can do that quite easily. Now, so we've sat down and basically, by whatever means they've manufactured it, you've had all these people trooping into the APC. As we speak today, there are only 7 governors who are not in APC. 2 of them are in the southeast, supposedly, at least. You have Abia State and Anambra State, at least notionally. And then you've got, I believe, Bauchi State, Osun State, Zamfara State, I believe Adamawa State, and there'll probably be one more state there. But these are the outlier states, and you can count them, right? How do you, therefore, resist this kind of thing? It's not by playing the political prostitute and, jumping here, there, and everywhere. We've got to build critical mass. And building critical mass means being able to take sustainable punishment. And in this, you've got to credit Tinubu. Unfortunately, Tinubu was reduced to, people forget that after the 2003 elections, Tinubu was the only AD governor left in southwest Nigeria. He could easily have made peace with the situation, joined up with the PDP, and forgotten and moved on, right? But he declined to do so. And from that nadir, he got to where he got to in 20 years, 2023. It took exactly 2 decades. But most of our politicians are unwilling to build anything. They're unwilling to commit to anything. They're unwilling to be principled in pursuit of anything. And we want convenience and we want quick solutions. It will not happen. Absolutely won't. Rather, we want prayers. prayer for Nigeria in distress, and that kind of thing. And those incantations don't work. God is busier with other more useful things. I'm sorry.
You mentioned that, and I remember a headline I saw. People have been critical of P2B for his decision to leave Labour Party and join the ADC. I don't know if you have opinion on that. They said that he should have stayed, fought for Labour Party, or formed his own political party. I spoke to someone who was close to him in 2023, and this is what he said to me, that P2B of 2023, that he would not support that P2B in 2027, that the electoral landscape has changed, calculations must change, that there will be a different P2B. What do you make of that, his decision to leave Labour Party and join ADC, and whether that is a right decision?
Look, I'm not a politician. I've not been one before. I don't know what works in the minds of politicians. So I'm not going to start second guessing any politician as to the choices they make. But I don't know whether you saw the report I believe by the Gazette yesterday, about a meeting somewhere in Lagos, a political meeting involving Labour Party and ADC, which was attacked by gangs wielding cudgels, cutlasses, sticks, canes, koboko, and the lot, and people took a thorough beating. Right? That is the politics of 2027. It's going to be very violent. Anybody who is not willing, unfortunately, tragically, to fight that with that will not stand a chance. That is quite clearly, anybody who comes to the politics of 2027 wielding satyagraha, right, is not going to stand a chance, unfortunately.
Thank you. In a few moments, we are going to bring our audience to join us in the conversation. But before then, I want to play a video, and then we'll get your take on what's going on in another part of the country. Let's watch.
This whole main market and all the adjoining these things will be locked down for the whole of this week. There will be no market anywhere here. Are you hearing me? Each Monday will come and inspect. If people are not in their respective shops, it will be shut down again. If you like, I don't mind shutting down my market for the remainder of this year. I'm just from Oka. Everywhere is open. And people are going about their businesses. Then you come down to Onitsha. Come down to main market. The once reputed market as the largest market in West Africa. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I have just driven all the way from the junction with Ose to this place. Through much of Johnson, I've seen through Johnson, I've seen through Bright, and the shops locked up. I've peeped inside, a few persons here and there. I know that people have done this sit at home on Mondays for quite some time now. And as they say, an abomination that lasts a year becomes culture. No. This can no longer go on in Anambra. You either decide that you want to trade here or you can go elsewhere. This main market, if you don't want it open, I'll come and take bulldozer and level it.
All right. I'm sure most people have seen that video. It triggered something that I've not seen before in Anambra State. The governor and the traders have all been meeting. The governor gave them several options. One of them was this total destruction and rebuilding of the market in 2 years. The other one was bringing down the illegal structures. But tomorrow is a critical day because they have agreed. The traders agreed that they have to go back to open their shops on Mondays. What do you make of that? The whole drama. It's not over yet.
Clearly, it's not over. Now, there are several layers to this, it seems to me, which need to be taken a little carefully. Clearly, there are productivity losses for the Southeast out of, in this whole business of sit at home. Monday sit at home has been extraordinary, or have been extraordinary. No question about that. And the sit at home has been enforced coercively by non-state actors. Again, no question about that, and that should not be tolerated. However, the mere fact that non-state actors could, for this long, sustain that sense in the heads of communities and inflict so much violence on people with the resulting trauma says one thing: there has been a failure of political authority. And that political authority, people have got to the point where they can no longer trust political authority and law enforcement agencies. And to be fair, it's not, you don't start with the market people on this. You start with the people on the front lines of guaranteeing safety and security, the law enforcement assets. Most law enforcement assets, as a result of this whole thing, no longer wanted to come to the Southeast, or to Anambra, as a matter of fact. Anambra is one of the places where ordinarily most police officers want to come to, because they come to Anambra to make money, right? Now, all of a sudden, security assets stopped wanting to be posted to Anambra because they were afraid for their lives. And the people, those of them who lived in the communities, no longer showed up in their uniforms, for the most part, right? That is the context for all of this. Now, secondly, I think it is good, broadly speaking, that the governor has made up his mind to provide leadership in returning Anambra to normalcy, because Anambra is very important to all of us. Anambra is the center of enterprise in the Southeast, and South-South, as a matter of fact, in the entire country. Right? And the Southeast leads Nigeria in enterprise. That is the only reason why we could recover from the war in less than a decade. And it's only with the passage of the Southeast Development Commission law last year that we had, for the first time, a statutory acknowledgement of the need for reconstruction in Southeast states. That was 55 years after the end of the war. So the fact that we could reconstruct says we have a lot of enterprise in the Southeast. And I do think the governor, in telegraphing the message we need to end this, is on the right track. It's not a question of whether or not the question is not whether we should try to normalize in the Southeast. The question is how we normalize. And that is where I believe it is important to offer, in my view, a different point of view on this. Thirdly, therefore, countering insurgency, as I've said somewhere else earlier today, is a game of addition, not subtraction. Traders do not want to run away from the market on Monday when they should be making money. If traders are keeping away voluntarily from the market on Monday, something is wrong. And you see, I think we've got to take a little bit of a historical tour on this. Okay? Because in Onitsha, if you look at Onitsha, the Onitsha traders were primarily responsible for the provision of security in Onitsha from about 1997-98, when military rule pulled out and there was a clear collapse in security provisioning around the markets in the Southeast, from Aba through Newi to Onitsha. It was Onitsha market traders it was then OTA, Yes, before people talk about Omata, but they actually organized under OTA, Onitsha Traders Association. It was the OTA that provided security. They were accused of being too brutal. Mbadinuju then brought in Bakassi to run them out of town. And in running them out of town, Mbadinuju killed several members of Ndiota, took over that thing, and then inflicted a reign of terror on Onitsha. Now, you then had a transition from there through about 2004, 2005 into the Masob era in 2006, when Masob infiltrated parts of Onitsha, and then you had the prison breaks between 2006 and 2009. The traders have consistently suffered as a result of the failure of the state to guarantee proper safety and security. I don't think it has changed significantly. And my fear is in the rhetoric that is being employed, that instead of making the traders allies in something in which they are naturally self-interested in the attainment of a goal that they naturally share with the state, they are being turned into enemies and instigators and being further victimized. And in all of I find it rather strange that the market should be closed on Monday and then the traders are invited to a meeting on Wednesday. I would have thought that it would have made sense if, for instance, there was a meeting with the traders earlier to say, look, you have to reopen by this day. Okay? What are your problems? Why is it you're not reopening? Why are you still doing this? And they say that, and you say, okay, we are going to guarantee this, and we are going to do this. And so when you then come back to shut down the shops, you say, we met, we discussed, we agreed, and we promised we will do this. We have done it, but you people have not done your own bit. At that point, Ijirogu, yes? To be honest with you, my grandfather always told me, to put it in the basic way we do things na Igbo, the government has to come to the traders. I would have thought that the first thing was come to the traders with an offer. The market must open on this day. And we are guaranteeing that that will happen. And these fears you people you have in your head, we've wiped them out, and we are going to make sure that nobody will suffer, nobody will be killed, nobody will be attacked. So come to the market. If you don't come to the market, these are the consequences. But getting to shut the market first and then offer the traders a meeting in 2 days' time where they are told you either reopen or we demolish your markets, sounds very strange to me, with all due respect. And I say this as a citizen, as an Igbo person who wants to see my people make progress. Nobody wants to see this thing continue. But my fear is, in carrying on this way, you alienate the people with whom you should be making sure that this thing does not continue. And nobody wants to see a return to where we're coming from.
Thank you so much. I know why I asked that question is that I know that you are you've worked with the governor in several projects, I believe, and whatever Soludo does reflects on public intellectuals like Coup. And there are people who are now saying that all of you are too much education. You don't know how to deal with reality on the ground. You don't understand your people. There's a reflection of that on people like you. So that was why I wanted to know what you think and maybe how you will have handled it differently if you were in that position.
No, I mean, I'm not a governor. I will never be a governor, not even the governor of Rotary Club. I have huge respect for people who offer themselves for public service and leadership and public life, because you don't get any credit. You shouldn't get any credit for doing it. It's a voluntary thing, and as I said, I really do like the idea that the governor wants to take leadership in addressing this. But the traders are allies. They are not enemies. And I speak for myself here. The sense I get is that they're being treated as enemies. And they cannot be. Which trader does not want to make money? Which trader does not want to keep their shops open? Now, police is issuing all manner of threats. People are issuing all. Can people just calm down?
Yeah.
I would think the first thing to do is reduce the rhetoric against the traders. I think it's very important. They have suffered a huge loss, compounded loss over more than 5 years. We need to recognize that and sound like we understand. And my brother, the other thing, Bukwano, this thing is January ending, okay? Who goes and I'm sorry, maybe I grew up in a household with a lot of traders in Odisha, okay? So how do you shut the shops of people at the end of January? Because lots of people are paying debts at the end of January, particularly traders. And, so my take of this is very simple. The traders are allies. They are not enemies. We need them in bringing this thing to an end. And we also need the PGs. Anambra has 178, 179 communities. And therefore 178, 179 PGs. We need the PGs. We need the traders. And we need the heads of community vigilantes across the states to come together. And then we all work together. Makana ndị Igbo na-asịkwa gịnị na agbakọ agbakọ nyoma anyịlị ọgbọ ofufo. But to do na agbakọ means that we all respect one another. And we are not coming there to say, oh, krokro, they do you for nyash. Now, it is this kind of language of krokro, they do you for nyash or for blocos, sorry for my French, that I'm getting in all of this. The traders are a central part of the trying to solve this problem. And I am uncomfortable with the rhetoric of the how, not the whether. The whether, I think all of us agree on. The how is what I'm quite uncomfortable with at this time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before I now bring people in, let's touch on your book, The Selectorate, When Judges Topple the People, I believe the people and their mandates. In that citation for the courtroom mail, when they named you the man of the year 2025, they talked about the unique way you approach your scholarship, and you looked at the way you look at the judiciary and the system as something of that is not very common in lawyers, especially how the legal profession operates, where you don't step on toes for you to get up. They said that you don't sound like someone who is interested in advancement. Maybe you don't want to be the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, or you don't want to be Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I don't know. But the point is, in this book, you try to look at, and you've been doing this for a long time, look at the flaws in the judicial system. It's something you touch on in your articles most of the time. How was it received by people in your profession?
No, thanks. How was it received? Frankly, I don't know. Because I also long ago decided I wasn't necessarily serving people who are lawyers. And so my profession, the first question is my profession. My profession is citizenship now. And I try to serve the average person understanding of law. Not so that we get populist, but so that at least people have enough information on the basis of which to approach the legal system. But also, in that sense, you also then are able to reach to members of the profession who want to see things better, because these dysfunctions affect people, clients, lawyers, judges in different ways. You see honest judges, for instance, who want to do things right, but because they want to be honest, they are punished. They are sent to places where there is no safety and security. Their orderlies are withdrawn. They are sent to courtrooms that are leaking, that kind of thing, just so that they are punished and given, forced to be less honest than they are. You see state council who want to be honest, they are retired early. I know a person, for instance, in one of the southeast states, who was permanent secretary, solicitor general in the Ministry of Justice, who refused to take a huge bribe from a senior politician close to the governor of that particular state. The person was retired summarily, right? Now, so you see all of these things, and therefore there are very good people in the system who suffer because of these things. And initially, when I started, I think I got a lot of, people were beating me up left, right, and center, not physically. I mean, abuse. I got some death threats now and again. But because I decided I was old enough to die at that point, I think attitudes began to change, it's fair to say. And now the people who provide me with most information I need are judges themselves and senior lawyers. That's because I think many of them now understand this is not about trying to destroy the system. So, for instance, I will never mention any judge whom I know to be good, because if I mention them, I'll be putting a mark on them and they'll be destroyed, right? But I can't also come here and tell you, the judiciary is totally bad. There are no good people in the judiciary. But we've got to try and identify those ones who make the system terrible, whether they are at the very top or at the bottom. And I've been a lawyer in Nigeria since 1988. I'm no longer junior. If anybody now decides to waste me, I've seen good, bad, and ugly, right? So it's making the choice as to what to address that is critical. And I think it's also fair to say, I think God has been kinder to me than to most. And this is my way of saying my Sunday prayer. I'm not into too much of organized religion, but I do believe in God a heck of a lot. And my faith continues to tell me that it is important to sow hope in people, to persuade people that tomorrow can be better. But to do it in a way that shows examples and models, whether of good or bad or evil, and that's what I really try to do. It's I'll be honest with you. I've had very senior judges, Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Court, providing very constructive support. Very senior, elderly senior advocates of Nigeria, younger senior advocates of Nigeria, extremely constructive support. I've had people call me and tell me, we know this thing you're doing is very difficult. Can we send you money? And these are very senior lawyers. So I've got to say the feedback on the whole has been extraordinarily supportive. I've rejected money, because I tell them my views are not to be bought. And on occasion, I've decided, okay, you want to give me money. There are these students who are going to school, law school, who don't have money. Can you please give it to them? I've provided the accounts, and they've been happy to give the money to those people. So, but by and large, I've got to say that there's been a change over the past 4 or 5 years that I've worked on this. I've seen a sea change from the negativity and abuse. Today, I can tell you most of the feedback I get, well over 80%, is very supportive and very constructive.
Okay, you mentioned senior lawyer, and I remember that Michael Zakome. Any thoughts on this case with the Nigerian government about efforts to acquire property that belonged to, I think it was Useni in London, his client? Did you follow that, and what is your thoughts before we go to our people here?
I can't say I didn't follow that, because I will not be honest. Mike was my boss at the CLO, the Civil Liberties Organization. He was the person I reported to directly, he was the director of legal services in the CLO board, and I was the person in charge of legal on the staff. So I've known Mike all my professional life, actually, for well over 36 years. The entire thing is unfortunate. My position of principle is fairly straightforward. It's actually in Mike's interest to have this thing cleared up legally, because that way his reputation can be salvaged. If it's swept under the carpet, people can call him names tomorrow and he will not be able to maintain an action in defamation, because his name will always be tarnished by this. And so if you ask me, that's my own personal position, that it's better for it to go through a process of inquiry, investigation, and he comes out at the end of it all cleared. That way, his reputation is restored. I can give you an example. The former Attorney General of Lagos, Shukwo Shashore, whom I admit was my classmate, my master's program, was accused of, people called Shukwo all manner of names for his role in the P&ID case, if you remember, right? And a lot of people made a lot of adverse comment as a result of that. And he took a lot of that abuse. But the case went through the courts in the United Kingdom and in England. And at the end, the judgment absolutely exonerated him and restored his standing after all of that abuse. And a lot of people who abused him came back to apologize. And I'd like to hope that people can understand that some of these things actually require clearing up, and we cannot just continue as if any of us should be above the law, particularly when the law is not being instrumentalized. There are genuine questions from that Talishani business. We can't run away from that. And it's in everybody's interest to have that cleared up.
All right. What we're going to do now, we're going to take a break, 3 minutes, and then when we come back, we get you guys involved in the conversation. I will ask you to, interact with our guest, Professor Chidi Odinkalu. Let's take a break. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're having a very interesting conversation with Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who joined us from Tufts University, where he teaches as a professor of human rights law. So when I call you, please narrow down. I know you have several questions. Narrow it down to one question so that we can get to everybody. Also here, you are first.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody from Eastern United States. My brother, Professor Odinkalu, we are true brothers. Your hometown and my hometown is just 2 miles apart. And we're also about 30 minutes apart not in Massachusetts. So you are, I think, a gift to Nigeria. You're a gift to Igbo people, and also a great gift to the world. You are extremely very knowledgeable about world events and everything. My issue right now, what I really wanted you to address is for the past few days, we have seen videos of the dead man called Gentle the Yahoo, that the Imo State government, the federal government, the Nigerian Armed Forces, DSS, all the entire armed forces in Nigeria declared dead, that they killed him. And people in Imo State that some of his activities affected were jubilating. And people from me and you local government, which has been hit the most, also jubilated. And suddenly, between October 2025 and January 2026, the dead risen and started making videos, making speeches, threatening everybody. So, and the Nigerian government, the military, has the audacity to come to the television to tell us that that was an AI. And so I really want, right now I'm a little bit upset because I felt I was lied to as a citizen. I was lied to as a victim of some of the non-state activities. And also I was lied to as a taxpayer.
All right.
So I wanted you to address that for me, please, if you can.
Thank you, Soher. Prof.
No, thanks, my brother. I wish I could. The sequence I remember is, I think it was around October last year that the military said they raided some place around Umulolo and thereabouts.
Yes.
And they reported some casualties. Subsequently, the report was that they had captured Ifeanyi. That's his name.
Ifeanyi. Yes.
Ifeanyi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They said they captured him, and then there were speculations. I think I do not recall having seen any report that he was in fact killed. Any confirmation by the soldiers, by the defense headquarters, or by 82 Division, which has the footprint over that neighborhood. What I do recall was the claim that he had been captured. And I kept asking my own sources within the military and the security services, can you guys provide proof of either what you say or the speculation that he had in fact been killed, which was also very rife, and nobody could provide that. Now, these clips that are, it's not difficult to figure out whether or not a clip is AI generated or not. And these clips seem to me to be credible enough to provide proof of life. Yes. And which therefore does suggest one of two things, it seems to me. It's either that the claims that he had been captured that were made last October were either untrue, or that, which would be worse, that he in fact does have people within the system who have sprung him after he was captured. It has to be one of those two. And now, am I at this time in possession of sufficient information to say which one of those two it is? No, I am not. But so far, it does not appear to me, I'm happy to be proven wrong, it does not appear to me as if they claim that these are in fact AI-produced material supported. I don't think that is supported by the evidence, not at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Osoya. Let's go to, sorry guys, I forgot the sequence that you came in, but we are going to get to all of you. So if I don't come to you next, bear with me. Mr. James, you're next.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for coming. I'm sure you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
You've spoken well, but there's something that is not very clear to me when we are discussing the affairs of our country, and I've mentioned it a number of times. Nigeria as a country has collapsed. The country is beyond redemption. It's pitiful, but it's beyond redemption. We educated people were refusing to reconcile ourselves with realities. Now, we still talk of democratic dispensation. If you compare Nigeria today with what we experienced during the military era, the military boys were saints. Because I remember they were embarking on projects. They set up universities like Port Harcourt, River State University, Calabar, Sokoto, and Brusali University, universities all over the country. Road construction was going on. Industries were springing up. Refineries were built. The steel complex at Alaja, Ajakuta, and others. The list is unending. In Benin State, where I grew up, Ogbomudia executed over 85 projects. I will not be able to list everything now. Within 8 years, the politicians, what are they doing for us? For over a quarter of a century, we have nothing to show. They've not even set up so it's very sad indeed. And internationally, I still remember people like Joseph Gaba, Ibrahim Gambari, Shaya Audu, and others making their mark at the United Nations internationally. They rescued South Africa from apartheid. Zimbabwe got her independence. Mozambique, the same thing. Angola, Guinea-Bissau. These were military boys in khaki uniforms. Now, what are the benefits of this so-called democratic dispensation we've been grappling with for over a quarter of a century? In my opinion, let the military come back, because I remember vividly that under the military dispensation, I received free education from primary school to master's degree level. My parents never paid a farthing for my education. I got it free of charge. So what are we up to? These are so-called democracy, what we call them, champions of democracy, Bola Tinubu and his boys during the Nadeko era. What did they not promise us? They promised us heaven and hell. They promised us they are going to make he-goats pregnant. So what are we getting out of all these promises? So we better go back to military dispensation. That is what I have to say.
No, thank you, sir. That's not a question, I guess. That's a comment, right?
Yeah, indeed. You are correct. Thank you so much.
No, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, Mr. James. Let's go to Chim, you're next.
Thank you, Rudolph, for elevating me. I thought some people were here before me. But anyways, Dr. Odinkalu, it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome back to the platform the second time. I'm not going to be talking about or asking you questions with regards to the topics of the day, but I want to, take something of interest from your book, the Selectorate, and it has to do more with elections and the judiciary and, of course, lawyers. I recall in one of the comments you made, if I'm correct, you said the judiciary has evolved from constrained arbiters over political disputes to unconstrained determinants of the location and site of a mandate to rule. Yeah. So my question is in two folds. One is, are we saying or are you suggesting that if someone has a dispute, electoral disputes, that judges shouldn't arbitrate? That's one. Then the other thing is, don't you think that it's actually a good place? The problem is the individuals that have refused to adjudicate accurately. So let's say I and Rudolph are in a dispute over a political office, and we get all the electoral materials, and we can see clearly that Rudolph is the winner, and I rigged my way through it. I mean, it's easy to determine some of those things. Wouldn't have been that if the judges were ruling accurately, that by now they would have served as a deterrent to politicians who clearly would believe that, okay, you know what, if we let this matter get to the point of the courts are going to adjudicate accurately. And so it's a waste of my time. I might as well just simply go and talk to the right people, who is the voters, and appeal to them or do what may look plausible for them to vote for me. And by that being done, would have reduced the incidences of having to go to the court. So it's not a case of that the judges are doing what is wrong. I do agree some of them are not adjudicating accurately, but it's a case of the fact that because judgment is not being served properly, people believe they can go to the courts and waggle their way through. So I don't know if, the question is it wrong to go to court? And then don't you think this whole court matter would have died if the right people were being adjudicated appropriately for?
No, thank you for that question. The question, of course, is who are the right people, and what will be right adjudication. Now, and as the book tries to make clear, okay, adjudicatory jurisdiction does not necessarily mean that the remedial options exercised are necessarily therefore appropriate. Okay? It is not the role of a court to decide who wins and loses an election. If we do not understand that, then something is wrong with us fundamentally as a country. We're not the only people who do elections in the world. We're the only people where courts decide who wins elections. Go to India, even in parliamentary elections. When you decide that the elections were not conducted lawfully, you send it back to the people. Now, Bush and Gore, whatever you may think about it, Bush v. Gore in 2000 was quite literally decided by hanging chads, right? But the US, when you read the judgment, the US Supreme Court said the design of the Constitution was not that we, as Supreme Court justices, decide who wins. It is for the people to decide. And so they remitted the case back to the state, Florida, where the dispute came from, and that was it. You go to Kenya, 2017 elections, the Supreme Court of Kenya struck down the election in Kenya. They could have decided, somebody else won. They said, no, we have a rerun. Malawi, 2019-2020. They could have decided somebody else won after striking down the election. They said, no, go back, let the people decide. It is in Nigeria where judges who got F9 in WAEC on mathematics, right, will sit down very proudly with their F9 mathematics and start recomputing election results. And we think that is right. Lawyers historically are not good at arithmetic. Elections are about arithmetic, quantum computing. right? And what do? You give it to lawyers. Something is fundamentally wrong there. And I'm not apologetic about that point. The fact that we do not trust citizens to decide elections, but instead trust judges who do not have voters' cards is a scandal. Ask Nigerian judges how many of them have voters' cards. Do you know what it takes for a citizen to run the gauntlet of abuse, of thuggery, of violence to vote? And in Zamfara State, you finish voting, and the judge who comes from Osun State or Ebonyi State or Imo State will sit down together amongst themselves and decide your votes are wasted. Wasted. That is not jurisprudence. That is scandal. And if we are not angry as citizens, then something is wrong with us. And so the politicians no longer bother to campaign to somebody like you, at least that part of you that is a citizen. What they do is they wait, collect the money and keep it. You waste your time. I mean, what happened in Imo State, I know this full story inside out. I'm not going to say it here because, if I say it here, I will amplify the scandal. I know what happened in Imo State in detail. Who was rented, by whom, for how much, to do what. And when you get into the conversation, the lawyers will tell you, this one was pleaded and that one was not pleaded. When you go to do election, are you talking about pleadings? Is that not something that tells you something is wrong? Elections are not about pleadings filed in court and who traversed what and who didn't traverse what. That's civil procedure, election petition procedure. So this is really my point here, that there's got to be a major constraint on what judges can do in election litigation. I'm not against people going to court. I'm against judges overreaching, and we have crossed the point of beyond overreach. I yield.
All right. Thank you, Chim. Let's bring in KJ. You're next.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Damages and Prof. It's always good to see you. Listening to you is like sitting under the in the village with the tales by moonlight from your elders, and you always have something to take away. Always have lessons to be learned. Always have something to jot down. So I can listen to you the whole of the year without getting bored. And God bless you for the work you're doing. My only quarrel with you is that you say you are not a politician. You're not going to be one. So we still have, now you have cut us short in the East. People who can check the system and bring some of these radicals out, throw them away, all these people with unseen dreadlocks out of the system. You refuse to go there. And I don't know how we're going to do that. Just imagine if Alex Oti gave up. Now what will be happening to people of Abia State? When you have a governor who only achievement is to bring Mr. Biggs to Aba. So you can see that we'll have a problem. We have a problem, Prof. We have a problem, and I thank you for being consistent. I have known you since you were in the Human Rights Commission, which you handled a very one case that I can't forget. The way it was handled was quite satisfactory to everybody. In fact, the church prayed for you that day when they heard how you concluded that case. I won't go into that now because it's a private case. And one of the things I want to ask is forgery still a crime in Nigeria? And if forgery is still a crime in Nigeria, then what is happening? Because things seem to be moving so fast. I don't know how else to say it. And then the one that is totally annoying me is the fact that just yesterday, a young girl, 26 years old, lost her life because of no venom in National Hospital, in a federal medical clinic. So, Prof, here is my confusion here now. Just like the other speaker said, do we still have a nation, or we're just a community of people who come gather in one place and everybody just doing that? Like you go to the market, everybody bring their wares. At the end of the day, everybody goes back to their various homes and the market remains empty. Are we now an empty market with nothing? Nobody has any function, or just to gather as much as you can and go back to your house. What is going on, Prof? That's my question.
There are lots of issues you raise. I will just take one because it's arisen twice now. Do we still have a nation? the question is, did one ever exist? I was rather surprised that the response to that, Nigeria, I think the line was that Nigeria is beyond redemption. But the remedy for that that was suggested was the military should come back. But if the country is beyond redemption, it means that it's beyond the military. All right. Now, I do think, however, that the question about whether we have a nation framing it as that is a very important question. In 1968, before I was born, Ali Mazrui, the Kenyan political scientist, late, wrote a study on political assassinations in Africa, in which he argued that newly independent African countries had only two challenges. Both come down to legitimacy. One was state legitimacy after colonialism, and the other was regime legitimacy, establishing a state in which all the communities could claim identity, or with which every community in it could claim identity. And second, establishing a government in which everybody could take a stake. And that is where we are in Nigeria. That's where most of African countries are. We have still not evolved states where everybody belongs. The only thing that unites most communities in Nigeria is disaffection with Nigeria. Whether it is, from the south, we say, oh, Ndiugu have been dominating us. Iganugu, they tell you Tinubu is killing them. And now, when Buhari became president in 2015, he came from Katsina. Katsina has 34 local government areas. All of them were safe. Who was ruling? Jonathan from Niger Delta. 8 years after Buhari left, over 1/3 of the local governments in Katsina State had been sacked by bandits. In 8 years, Buhari could not protect his own state. But you see, it doesn't bother us as people from the Southeast, because we say, what? It is his people, let them sort themselves out. But every part of Nigeria should bother us. And I was telling Dr. Damages yesterday, I spent quite a good bit of time around Nigeria. And in 2017, I went back to visit Borno and Yobe states. And I went to visit the school. I started off by visiting the school where young children had been killed in 2013 going to school, Federal Government College, Buniyadi. And so when we drove into Buniyadi, stopped at the market diagonally opposite the school in Gujra local government area. As I was getting down from the bus, what I heard was, Now, this entire place was in ruins. The only people in the market in Yobe State, in the middle of a ruin from the war of Boko Haram, were Igbos. This woman, it turns out, was a woman from Idemili in South, in Anambra State, who was married in Abia State. She had never left throughout the worst years of the Boko Haram depredations. And it is the same thing. You go around Nigeria, Mambila, you go through Sokoto State, wherever crossing into Niger Republic, that entire space, we need to be able to claim it. And nobody was going to convince me that we should just confine ourselves to 29,300 square kilometers of Anibo when we can claim all of Nigeria. I refuse. No. And it is that argument that I'm prepared to have that argument. But we will start that argument by making sure that all 29,300 or 500 square kilometers of Anibo, we make it safe for our people. We make it competitive for our people. We make it prosperous for our people. When we do that, Nigeria will come and start asking us to work our miracle for them in Nigeria. Until then, we have a problem and we have to fix it for ourselves. And that is why today I focus on the Southeast, because that is where we need to start making our case from, with our own people. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if we cannot prove our concept in the Southeast, we don't have anything to do going to the rest of Nigeria. I know I've not addressed your question the way you would like it, but I'd like to invite all of us to understand that we have a challenge. And as I said in the main conversation, the war ended in 1970, January 15th. We were promised 3 hours. Government did nothing about it. We, our people, with our 20 pounds, dug ourselves out of our collective graves. Yes? And after that, 55 years later, in 2025, was the first time Nigeria passed a law recognizing the imperative of reconstruction in the Southeast. But as I speak to you, SCDC has not been funded. It has only been given 5 billion naira since it was created. And that is what it is working with. So we still have, and that is why this Onitsha Market thing, Jafumofu.
All right. Thank you, KJ. Before I go to the next person, I think that will be Chris. There's a question on the comment section for you. Wachuku wants to know if liberal democracy is good for Africa, is the best form of leadership for us in Africa, or should we seek an alternative?
That's a complicated conversation to have here, and we may need to have a totally different conversation, schedule one for that. But my response to that is liberal democracy. I think people are complaining about liberal democracy in locations where state building has not even been undertaken. We have not forged a state in Nigeria. If anybody who claims we have forged a state, I'll ask them one question. Name one common Nigerian hero or heroine. One person whom all of us in Nigeria admit belongs to all of us as a historical figure. The person does not exist. Zik, Asigno Welendi Onitsha. Awolowo, Oboye Yoruba onye Ijebu. Sadana, onye Ugwu, Ochere Igbo anye Ugwu. Onye Murtala Mohammed, onye Kano. Ya mere gini, omelu Asaba Massacre, me kozo. Right? We do not have one national hero. We do not have one national heroine. We do not have any figure that transcends the borders of our respective identities. Most people don't even think, unless they've crossed international borders, that they're Nigerian. And we're talking of liberal democracy. How is that going to work?
All right. We will schedule that big conversation. I really want to have a bigger conversation, more than what we do now, which is talk on issues. Chris, you're next.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Prof. Yes. Well, I didn't go to church today, but this sermon he actually fulfilled my spiritual need today. So, an American ambassador came to the Igbo land and said that the epicenter of the project in Nigeria is in the southeast. One of your colleagues, or your brother, Professor Pat Utomi, said that Nigeria, his contemporary in the Western world, had been whispering to him that Nigeria is a failed strategy. Obasanjo said that the first lesson he learned in military regime is, in his military career, is never reinforce failure. So our forefathers left for us they left for us things like how would they use it now? The templates for us to build our society. 1949, Azikiwe canvassed for this self-determination. Today, Igbo people are still canvassing for self-determination. We also noted that when the white man came to colonize Igbo land, they were largely monarchy. They saw in Igbo land a society, or a democratic society, that build their decision on consensus. Today, that consensus is referred in other climes as what's it called? Quota a representation, something representation, quota representation.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Then there's another thing again about the template they left for us. That is the juror system, which is the one I am sure you are so much knowledgeable about. That juror system ensures a lot of stability in judicial system. When I was growing up in my father's obi, they practiced it. If you contrast it with what we have today, one man sitting in judgment and decide whatever they want. So my question to you is simple. If the Igbo have continued to build Nigeria and it hasn't worked, when shall we, elite of Igbo people, to start providing avenues for discussion on the fate of Igbo man and how we can develop?
Thank you, Chris. Prof.
Well, we have to be grateful to Dr. Damages for at least convening that kind of conversation every week, right? Or even a lot more regularly than that. But, again, we may need to discuss this a little more separately. But part of the Igbo crisis in Nigeria is the eastern region was the only part of Nigeria that was never fully pacified. You know that? The white people, precisely for some of the factors, but they came from two directions. Through the rivers, set up administration in Lokoja and went through much of northern Nigeria, and then, of course, through the ports, which is why Lagos and Calabar were two of the first places where they got into. Now, in the north, they pacified the north very easily using the Hausa rifles, right? And so, they sacked the Sultanate by 1903, they had sacked the Sokoto Sultanate. And then, of course, Sultan Atahiru ran towards Burmi, and they killed him in Burmi, which is in Gombe State. So that's the northeast. The only place they did not fully capture was the Sefawa dynasty in Kanem Borno, right? But they eventually integrated that into a coherent administrative system. In the southwest, after Ijebode massacre, between the cession of Lagos and in 1861 and Ijebode massacre in 1893, they sorted out the southwest, ended the Kiriji Wars, and that's how you had the emergence of a Yoruba identity. Because before that, there was no coherent Yoruba identity. All right? Now, the Igbos and much of the southeast was in the tropical rainforest. That's why we did not have empires, because building an empire in the tropical rainforest is not easy. Go around the world and find out. Unlike the Sahel, where you can build empires, building an empire in the tropical rainforest took a lot more. And Emesia Febo, first na vage achu Ibinu Babi. You know Ibinu Babi?
Yes.
Yes. In 1902, at the end of the British Arab War. But the man who collected Ibinu Babi committed suicide. Onyocha Ibinu Babi. He committed suicide, right? So the Arab people believed that Ibinu Babi was very powerful and reinstituted it. By the time they tried to liquidate all of that, we were already into the First World War. By the end of the First World War, we had the Great Depression. They tried to then force things on the Southeast. You had the women's uprising in 1930, and that's when our crisis started. Because with the women's uprising in the Eastern region, we were not counted in the 1931 census. We were undercounted by about 30%. Go back and look at the records. Since then, the Igbo have been not fully integrated in Nigeria. It did not start in the Civil War. It did not start in 1960. From then, there was no counting in 1941. When we came to 1951 to count, they staggered the counting. They counted the North first, allocated 50% of parliamentary seats to them, then went to count the West. By the time they came to count the East said, how can you come to count us last when you have already allocated 50% of parliamentary seats? The East was unavailable to be counted. For 3 decades, we were not counted. By the time we got to try and fix that in the 1962 census, they said the rate of growth was not consistent with the baselines, and therefore they nullified the 1962 census and fixed numbers in 1963. I can give you the story. So, and that is why I say, first thing first, we need to have a coherent narrative and a coherent developmental project for the Southeast. Part of that means what? We need to make common cause with our people. I recognize that Ichindi Badiro Fele, but that is because we are an egalitarian, enlightened identity, group, and custom. We are acephalous. We are in that sense, therefore, we need to have our structures of community to work. And that's why I'm arguing that in this Anambra Onitsha Market thing, we need to, ending the sit at home, we need to bring our community structures into the dialogue. We need the PGs and the community development associations. We need the vigilantes. We need the market associations. And we need the political leadership to come together to offer a model out of it that is agreed. And when we do, you can see, I don't know whether you've been to Abia recently.
Not exactly.
If not, I think you should go to Abia and see what has transpired in 2.5 years. If you had Abia on this trajectory for another 12 years, what you would have would be different. And it's the same thing. Now, and with reluctance, but you can see what is happening. Now there is the makings of an outline of Southeast that could be different. There are things that are happening that offer some options. And if we continue along that line for another 3-4 election cycles, we can, with leadership that is forward-looking, we can create a zone in which most of us will be proud and most of us will be happy to go home. And then we can face Nigeria. At this time, we are not in a place to face Nigeria. I would rather face the Southeast.
All right. Thank you so much, Chidi. Chris, sorry. Let's go to Ife.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good
Professor Chidi, let me tell you, I am one of your fans. Anytime you grant an interview, I can listen to that interview like over and over and over again. The last one I watched was where you said that Tinubu doesn't need Nigerian votes, to win election. That all he needs is just the judiciary and and the INEC. And I agree with you. Anyway, by the way, so I know Papudoka. First of all, let me tell you something. I'm the only female on this platform. So you have to give me preferential treatment. Don't treat me like a stepchild, okay? Let's understand that.
All right. You know
me. Let me say something about Soludo. I live in Onitsha. My parents still live there. I have brothers that trade in main market. In fact, I just came back in December and I went to main market, I think 2 or 3 times. I was so disappointed to hear Soludo speak to the people of Onitsha the way he did. The only thing I can say is that the difference between Soludo and MC Oluomo is that Soludo is just educated MC Oluomo. That is the only thing I can make out of that. When I was in Nigeria, I talked to my brothers and they were like, do you think we don't want to go and trade? We won. That's exactly how my brothers put it. And I didn't expect that statement because I feel that, he's threatening the citizens. These are the people that so-called voted you into power. I bet you if this thing the question you have to ask yourself, why did he not do this in the first term? Because he knows that if he had done it in first term, of course, the Onitsha Market, they will overwhelmingly vote against him. But anyway, that's by the way. My question is this. Of course, I'm an Igbo girl. Do you think we still have business being together? Somebody made a statement yesterday and said, we don't even have a nation. And the other person said, we don't even have a country. And, I thought about it throughout yesterday, and I agree with both of them. We don't have a nation. We don't have a country. So what do you think about possible Nigeria disintegration, revolution, and possible regionalization? AY is not here today. He has always said, regionalize Nigeria, regionalize Nigeria. And I think it's something that you can elaborate more. And also, I feel like, again, a lot of people will disagree with me, but that's just my opinion. There are certain group of people, I don't want to say it's really evils, because we are not the only people being marginalized. Literally everybody in Nigeria is being marginalized, even the Northerners, But the way it is in Nigeria, I will just make an exception to that regarding the evils. Is it not high time we fight, like you said, we fight as a tribe to build our own, I would say our own country? Because looking at Nigeria, I don't know where we are heading to. We have a president. I don't know if you saw him in Turkey, not the issue about falling, but you can see that Tinubu was so disoriented that they are guiding him like a 2-year-old child, like doesn't know where he is going. And this is somebody who told us that he's just 73 years old. I just lost an uncle on Tuesday, and he was 90 years. And when you see him, if they tell you that he's 90 years, you will not believe it. But this 73-year-old president, I don't have anything against him. He is not fit to rule a country of 200 and something, almost 300 million at this point. Where do we go? And finally, I think honestly, as Africans, we do not have any business practicing democracy because it's not working for us. Kagame has been there for how many years? Tanzania, we saw what happened in Tanzania, the election that they just held. We saw what happened in Uganda with this guy, and we are looking forward to the next election coming in next year. When the South African people, when they conducted their last election, we saw it live, and the result was coming in live and direct, and people were saying it. There is no room for rigging. Why is it where Peter Aka has been every day moving around talking about electoral reform? And I don't know whether it's you or Delefaru to me said something that there is no problem with our electoral system. The problem is the people. And that's why I'm not for this electoral reform Peter Aka has been campaigning for, because no matter how you do reform, he's still somebody that is going to announce this result. And who is the president? The same INEC chairman. And that's why I feel like, honestly speaking, I'm in agreement with your statement that Tinubu doesn't need any of our votes. It's just a pure waste of time, that all he needs is judiciary and the INEC to win the election.
All right. Thank you, Ife. Okay, Prof.
No, thanks a lot, Ife. I should also declare my personal interests. I at the moment, I'm leading the legal team of the opposition in Tanzania in the crisis with their elections, both from 2020 and more recently, partly also because of the persecution of lawyers in there. And I've also been involved in election litigation work in Burundi since the third term attempt of the late president in 2015-16. Now, you posed so many questions. It's difficult to take all of them together given the time we've got. So
just answer the one about Nigeria disintegration, revolution, and regionalization. What do you think? In other words, how can we move this country? If we choose to unite together, which is very difficult, what can we do to move this country forward? Because this is not working for us. Looking at what is going on in the country now.
Because that was the question I actually wanted to take. Disintegration. Now, the first thing, if you look at history, is that no country can be taken for granted. No country is a given, right? South Sudan emerged in 2011. Now, this, as we speak, people are talking about recognition for Somaliland, and which will basically be two Somalias instead of one. And Sudan itself could conceivably become 3 countries. And so you could have Western Sudan, Darfur, and all of that could be 1 country. Bahr el Ghazal, Khartoum, and Blue Nile could be another country. And then the Kordofans and Abyei could be a 3rd country, quite easily, given what is happening. Ethiopia is in a situation in which you could have 2 countries out of it. And Tigray could quite easily go with some of the territories around it, probably taking part of Amhara territory. So, and this is just in Africa, right? If you look beyond Africa, the map of the world in 1989 was different from what it was in 1992. The 2 Germanys existed, they unified. USSR was 21, 22 countries, was 1 country, it's become 21, 22 countries. So there is nothing about Nigeria's borders that should be taken for Nigeria. Can Nigeria survive? Yes, it can. Can Nigeria disintegrate? Yes, it can. And this thing that our politicians come to tell us Nigeria is not negotiable is nonsense. The reality is the country can disintegrate. And at the moment, it seems to me, the centripetal forces are on the ascendant rather than the centrifugal forces. Now, is that a fate, however? I don't think it is a fate. It's down to what the political leadership and the communal leadership and civic leaderships can offer. If they offer a deal to the citizens, why do people want to go and start reinventing the wheel? If there is no deal to the citizens, people are going to begin to consistently challenge the authority of the state. And you're seeing that in different parts of the country. So that's really the broad outlines of what could be a much more serious conversation. But just one thing about regionalization. I think I get the sentiment about regionalization, but I think there are 2 extremes in the argument about territorialization and power sharing in Nigeria. One is the regionalization argument. It's like putting Pepsodent back in the casing. It's not likely to in the tube. It's not likely to happen. The other is state creation. I think we are well past the law of diminishing returns in state creation. And so I am explicitly against creation of another state in the Southeast, because I don't think that is our business model. Now, and I could explain that much more if people insist on hearing why I'm against creating another state from the Southeast, but I'm not the only person. Alex Ekweme understood we could not create another state from the Southeast. Emeka Anyaoku understands it. That was why but we need to address the equity problem. And the Ekweme's way around the equity problem was the 6 geopolitical zones, right? So that the North is carved into 3 geopolitical zones, South in 3 geopolitical zones, and we address equity that way over hanging the state infrastructure, because he understood also that it's difficult to go tell people let's abolish states. But creating more states is also not sustainable. At the end of the day, now about us as Ndibo, what do we have? We have 2 things, or 3 things, depending on how we look at it. Number 1, we have the 5 Southeast states with territory. Number 2, we have Igbos in every state in the South-South. We have Igbos indigenous to every state in the South-South. Number 3, we have Igbos indigenous to Benue State, at least in 2 local government areas, if not 3. And we have Igbos indigenous to at least 2 local government areas in Kogi State. I'm not even going to Igbo in Spora in other states of Nigeria. But the thing is, when we speak about ourselves, we speak about ourselves as if we are just in 5 states and not in 12 states. We need to change our frame of reference. If we are going to be contesting Nigeria and we bring this asset in both footprint and demographics, can we make it count? Can we begin to integrate ourselves to begin with and build our Igbo communities and identity in a way that understands we are up for a battle? I do not think we are there yet. And that for me is the first thing. And that's why I keep saying, let's address this Igbo thing before we get to Nigeria. By the way, as Igbos, We also have 7 state capitals. Asaba is an Igbo place. Port Harcourt is Igbo. But are we prepared to advance the advantages that this gives us for the purpose of building a different model of business? That is what I'm interested in exploring for this moment. I yield.
All right, Ife, thank you so much. Prof, do you want to take a break or you want us to continue? I have 4 more people or 5. I can
let's finish the questions.
Okay, all right.
If it's 4 or 5, I can do that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, comparable facts, you're next.
Okay. Yeah, greeting, Pros. I'm an admirer of you when it comes to politics and Nigerian vision. So it's always very interesting to have you on this platform. I would have liked to go general when it comes to Nigeria, but Nigeria is full of anarchy. I'm not going to devote my my time on that. I'm going to just concentrate on my Igbo land. This concerns me the most. Let me come on the issue of Soludo. What specific security measure has the governor, put in place in order to guarantee the traders of this Monday, he want them to come back on the Monday? Has he put any kind of security measure? The second question, in conjunction to this, is about the government. How does it justify the closing of Onitsha Market, claiming that they are losing billions in a week? Does he have any data to support that? If you know, let me know, please. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot. Comparable facts. The first question obviously can only be answered by the governor, and I'm not he. I don't have his mandate. I can't pretend to also speak for him. On the second question, I chair the Truth, Justice, and Peace Commission, and we did actually compute some information on the losses, and the losses are quite colossal. But the losses, first of all, are losses for the traders. Okay? Because when a trader has goods, the person wants to sell. If you are going to market for 5 days when you can go for market for 6 or for 4.5 days, as a matter of fact, that is huge loss notionally. Now, therefore, the person has an interest in optimizing their TO and therefore their TO, their margins, and their profit. They can only do that if they are open. And so there is no way a person who has wares to sell in the market would not want to go to the market and be staying idle on a Monday of all days. So, this is bad for business for everybody. You see that the churches used to encourage people not to go to market on Sundays. But now, if Monday is not a working day or a market day, they are now allowing people to go to church on Sundays, which means that some worshippers are not coming to church on Sunday, which means that the tithe they are collecting or the contributions they are collecting are less. Okay? And it also means that people are no longer getting the kind of leisure that they need for renewal and rest. And it's not an accident, therefore, that you're having more slump and dies in a lot of our communities. Okay? So this thing, nobody actually, no sensible person wants this to continue. But there are agreeable ways and disagreeable ways of bringing this to an end. There are workable ways and less workable ways. And the one thing I'm convinced about is that it will not work to make the traders enemies in a situation where they are actually allies. And I do hope that it is possible to work out mechanisms by which the traders can be treated as allies in making sure that we return the Southeast to a more secure place, starting with Anambra.
All right. Thank you, comparable facts. Let's go to Stay Humble.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, Prof. I'm really glad to be here, and I think it's a privilege for us to hear from you this evening. I think my question would have been about the so-called Nigerian project, but you've spoken passionately about that and your views, which I think we are really exhaustive. So during the week, a strange list emanated from the opposition camp, which they tagged 50 wise men. Your name featured prominently on that list. So my question is this: were you consulted before your name was included in the list? Because when you look at the list, you have people who have paid their dues, who have proven record of integrity, and who have proven track record like you. You also have others who are the authors and the architects of the chaos and the problem that we call Nigeria today. So how do you feel, being in that cast of, people? Would you continue to give your, because I think you were tasked with providing a manifesto for a party that is going into an election in less than a year's time. So is that the right time for a manifesto? Because if you want a manifesto to be very serious, this is not the time for the manifesto. The manifesto should have been out a long time ago, so that people joining the party would know if they really buy into the ideals of the party. Then you've talked also very, very enthusiastically about the Igbos, Igbo coalescing, galvanizing efforts, having identity. What do you think about the Ohanese and the Igbo? Because this association has been there for God knows how long. And very often we, even forget that they are existing. Recently, they held a selection or election, whatever they called it, and they picked one senator, Mbata. Since then, we've had neither from Mbata or the Ohanese itself. What do you think about that organization?
All right, thank you. Stay humble. Prof.
Thanks a lot. I'll try and stay humble on this. I'll probably say three things that sound contradictory. Number one, I'm not a politician. I've never been belonged to any political party. I've not changed my mind on that. That's still where I am. I think, and I've said this publicly in response to what you're describing, I happen to believe that every society needs to retain a small constituency of people who can say awkward things and do awkward things. It may not be a massive population, but every society needs that. Sometimes you pick your vocation, some other times your vocation picks you. But I'm quite clear now, if I wasn't before, that party politics is not my vocation. And I'm not going to get into that now. Secondly, I do think every democracy needs a viable opposition. I'm not saying I have to be involved in building it. I think democracy needs a viable opposition. If there are people here who can help in building, whether it's PDP or Labour or ADC or QED, if there are people here who can help in making, I'm actually also not suggesting that Nigeria as it is a democracy. I think what we do have right now is civilian government that claims democratic legitimacy. That's the way I always describe it. And civilian government that claims democratic legitimacy is a long way from, it's not necessarily a democracy. So it needs to take time to evolve. Those who can help in doing that should please contribute. The third thing is building a viable opposition begins way before people begin to prepare for elections. And this is really my biggest problem with the so-called opposition formations we've got now. They've not offered alternatives. They've not been critical of government. They've not taken on any issues that are uncomfortable for government. And so Tinubu enjoyed a long holiday, a long honeymoon, in which nobody actually lifted a finger at him. Now, the parties have stayed there and got themselves all wasted. As we speak, on none of the big issues have they offered any form of opposition, any alternatives, any criticisms. And if you were here at the beginning, you heard me say that from the current tax crisis or controversy over forging of the tax law to the question of the US projectiles that were dropped on Nigeria on Christmas Day, to the president being missing, to standard quality of life issues, livelihood issues that afflict Nigerians. You could go on. The parties are all missing in action, right? And not to talk about the stealing of elected officers from one party platform to the other. Why did Mali have the uprising in 2020? It was because the ruling party stole 31 seats of the opposition through the courts, through the Constitutional Court of Mali. And the opposition said, no, you cannot do this, and took it to the people, to the streets. That was how the uprising happened. In Nigeria, we cannot have a popular uprising because we don't have a common identity. We can't even agree on what is good for us as Nigerians, as good for our society. So, no, and one final thing. I'll be honest with you, I'm a person of faith, but I'm not a good Christian. I don't do forgive and forget very early. El-Rufai wanted to abduct me. I will not, even if I were the party belonging type, I would probably not join the same party with El-Rufai. That's because that's not my version of forgive and forget. But that's, I hope I've addressed your question.
All right. Thank you. Stay humble. We have to go. Sorry. Let's go to Izon. Welcome. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Izon.
Do, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. No, I said thank you for joining us today. It was good, and it's always a pleasure listening to you. The question I have is kind of twofold. Number one is a hypothetical question. If you were somehow, by a stroke of miracle, were appointed as the Minister of Justice for our country, how would you fix the rot in the judiciary? And then I think you might have addressed the second one a little bit in your last comment, talking about El-Rufai. Do you believe that Peter Obi, with the advent of ADC, that Peter Obi has run into a burning building? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah. The first question is, I hope how do I pronounce it? This is Izon, no? Now, there are two.
Yes.
The first question is rather straightforward.
Yes, it's Izon. You're right. They're using the context correctly.
Okay.
What do I do?
Excellent. Now, I'm quite clear about one thing. I did National Human Rights Commission for 4 years. It nearly killed me, and I came out of that with a clear with one clear conclusion: I will not do justice in Nigeria, even if you gave me all the money in the world to do it. The reason is very simple: I will be killed doing it. So I will not accept, no matter how ambitious I am, I will not accept to be anybody's attorney general at the federal level. I mean, I barely managed to survive as chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. I'm reasonably clear that if I did Attorney General of the Federation, I'll be killed. So I won't accept it. That doesn't mean I don't have any ideas. It's because I have fairly clear ideas as to what to be done or what I could do with it that I will not accept it. I will only accept a job I can do with a clear conscience. You have a situation in which an attorney general comes out and is being accused of the kinds of things that Malami is being accused of. You will understand that we're in a terrible spot of bother. And I don't think it takes a lot to do it right. But you also, we have a culture in Nigeria in which doing things right comes at a very, very expensive price. And it comes at an expensive price to you, to people around you, to your loved ones. And quite often you then scale back your expectations, and all you can consider is what extraordinarily terrible things you can preclude from happening, you can prevent, not what you can do. You don't therefore get propositional. You don't get ambitious about your society. You're always scaling back and pegging back on what you can do. And I don't think a lot of those things require a lot of effort. Several former attorneys general are people I know very well, and from what they've told me, I'm very sure I don't want. It's not a job I want to do. No.
All right, thank you. Let's go to the final. Prof, we still have people who are in the at the back end. I'm not letting them in unless you want to take a break. You'll come back. If you don't want to, we can end it with Righteous Man. Righteous Man, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Rudolph, good evening. My professor, good evening. I'm one of your big fans. Just love what you're doing. I am joining today from the capital city of Imo State, Owerri, where I'm based in Lagos. I've been in the East now for 2 months, crisscrossing between the southeastern states and the south states. And it's quite unfortunate what I have witnessed. Is so disturbing. I have witnessed many military regimes in Nigeria, as well as the democratic regimes in Nigeria. I come to a conclusion, that's my personal conclusion, that if we go by definition of what a country is defined to be and what a nation is defined to be, I will say with the facts that are on ground, Nigeria is an irredeemable entity because it does not fit into the definition of a country, neither does it fit into definition of a nation. So I want to borrow what Awolowo said is a mere geographical expression. And therefore, I will say Nigeria is an irredeemable entity that exists in the space. Now, I went to Mbuka Obosi yesterday, and I was trying to have a little discussion, political discussion with traders there about what is going on in Anambra State. And they told me, without missing word, that they never voted for Soludo, they voted for Abga in respect of late Chukwuemeka Odimegwu Ojukwu. Not that they voted the person of Soludo. It was just that name to preserve, and whatever that is happening, they have taken it in good faith. And I asked them about the upcoming election 2027, and they told me if nature permits them or creates the opportunity for them to vote, they will still turn out to vote for Mr. Peter Obi. Sir, I counted from Onitsha to Owerri. Coming from Onitsha to Owerri, I counted 25 road blocks where the uniformed men were busy collecting money. They have nylon bags and tire set where when you give them, they will give you change. That was coming from Onitsha. Going from Owerri to Onitsha, I counted about 28. And that is what they are busy doing. And I begin to ask myself a question. With this.
All right, righteous man, we leave it there. We can't hear you anymore. Prof, you get the idea of what he's trying to say.
Unfortunately, we still don't have independent candidates in Nigeria. So political parties have got to field, candidates have got to be fielded by political parties, and that is what it is. Now, there'll be presidential election, there'll be general elections next year, and we'll see what happens when that comes. But it's the unfortunately, tragically, it seems to me the opposition parties are running out of real estate to get their act together, at least get platforms that will be competitive in elections that are due in about 1 year. I think the voting is going to take place probably in February next year. So that's 1 year from now. Primaries have to be in 4 or 5 months, the maximum. So we don't have a lot of time, really. And that's just what it is. And running a national ticket is not child's play, it's not choir practice. Now, look, the situation, I think this, markets, this, main market situation is an urgent thing for everyone in terms of the model for reconstituting normalcy and beginning construction in the Southeast. But, particularly for those who are from the Southeast and parts of South here, it's also the case that markets are more than places of commercial transaction. Markets in the Southeast and South are also places of social communication, but also spiritual centers. Markets are spiritual centers everywhere in the Southeast and most of the South. And when we come at, we have all these things about Nigeria, Nigeria has done the other one. But the governor of Anambra State is not from Nigeria. He is from Anambra. I mean, I hope you understand because people can take what I've said out of context. He's from Anambra. He was not sent by Nigeria to oppress us. So he's as Igbo as any one of us. So I think it is important that we also limit this notion of, Nigeria has been sent to do us in, and ask ourselves the question, what have we got for what we do to ourselves as well? And and that's really what I leave us with, that at the end of the day, we've got to be careful about optimizing even the little that we think we have. We are, and this is the note on which I want to end it. We say we have inequities in the Southeast. We have 5 states. The other places have 6, and Northwest has 7. But you see, I'll give you 2 examples. Niger State is 76,300 square kilometers, approximately. Just under 76,400 square kilometers. All of the Southeast is 29,500 square kilometers. That is less than Kogi Niger State, with all of its 76,300 square kilometers, has 25 local government areas. Borgu local government area of Niger State is 11,800 and a bit square kilometers. You can try and work it out. That is combined the size of Anambra and Abia states, or Imo and Abia states put together. One local government area. It means you cannot police it. Now, would you rather spend the money of the combined 5 states on 29,300 square kilometers or 500 square kilometers, or would you spend it on 76,300 square kilometers? That's one. And as I said, 25 local government areas in that territory. Imo State at 5,000 and just under 5,100 square kilometers has 27 local government areas. That's exactly the same number of local government areas. That's 2 local government areas more than Niger State with all of its vast landmass. And that's exactly the same number of local government areas, 27, as Borno State, with 70,800 square kilometers. Where is the equity, and how do you calibrate the incidence of equity and inequity in that? We have more resources to devote to our small territory and dense population. And with an enterprise population and enterprise capability, we can leapfrog all of those people. Provide a different model to development, in my view. But we can only do that with better leadership, not the kind of bandit leadership that we've sent to the National Assembly, for instance, in a lot of our states. So if we retooled leadership and made a different deal with our communities, I think we can extract better for our territory, because we are not going to run away from the territory, whatever happens with Nigeria. We can look after ourselves a little better and prepare for whatever happens to Nigeria. That is where I begin. And that is what I'm trying to call attention to, howsoever we work out that deal. But let's, for now at least, suspend this idea of Nigeria has been sent to rule us. Odinkalu, who stole Abia dry, was not from Nigeria. He's Igbo. What's his name? The penultimate governor of Imo State.
Rochas
Okorocha, who stole Imo State dry, is not from Nigeria. He's Igbo. He may have grown up in Jos, but he's Igbo like any one of us. Can we start holding our own people accountable first? Before we start stoning people who don't owe us a duty, can we start stoning the people who owe us a duty? That's the note on which I want to stand down. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for this wonderful day. I hope next time we call you, will join us again. We appreciate you. And I didn't know you were one of the 50 wise men. I should have. I didn't know that.
Doctor, please let me just tell him thank you very much for coming. I'm your great fan. It's unfortunate I was sleeping. I had a night duty. So immediately I turned on, I saw you. I say, Chineke me. But I want to, when Doctor brought me, I said, let me just thank you so much. I'm in your camp as a human being. Thank you, sir.
Dalusa, I love night duty. At least it means Madam was making you very happy.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
guys.
Thank you. We'll be back.
I am adure lele, idu kwa samaka onyoma odika powder, idu kwa samuku onyoma odika fomu, idu kwa samishi onyoma odika pilu. Oh lo 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 lo, aturu bwebule wakawa iwariwo. Ice. Rosa Olerio, Rosanna Oleri, Rosanna Olerio adikadimba. Adure Oleri, Adure Olerio, Adure, Aturu bwebule wakawa iwariwo. Adure, Adure lele. Idu kwa samaka onyoma odika powder, idu kwa samuku onyoma odika fomu, idu kwa samishi onyoma odika pilu. Oh lo 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 lo, aturu bwebule Ijele Wakamba, Iwariwo.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. I appreciate all of you. And I hope it was worth the time, our conversation with Professor Chidi Odinkalu. Let me see, for those who were not able to join us, who came late or their connection was not good, like CM. People on the comment section were saying, "Oh, get CM to talk." CM's connection was not good. He was coming in and out. It wasn't our fault. And then for those who are always coming when we say, we have this day with our guests, we say it's 90 minutes just to get them to come in, 90 minutes, and then we try to extend it as much as we can. And then when we say, okay, so sometimes it's difficult to get them to stay. They make commitments and they have other commitments, and so sorry about that. So let me see who didn't get a chance to question or to make a comment. And let's start with you. Oh, Righteous Man, what happened?
Nigeria happened.
Righteous Man. Okay, he's not there.
Hello.
Yeah, Righteous Man, how are you?
Well, I'm fine and I'm good.
Okay. So what happened to your connection? I thought you were in Owera.
Yeah, the thing just disappeared. I was shocked. I said maybe your technicians decided to remove me.
Conspiracy. Everybody has a conspiracy against them. Nobody moved you. All right. So, but he answered your question, so you can go back and watch his answer. Thank you so much for joining. Let me hear from recolonization.
If anybody the way they do it, be like say, "Oh, you're not doing it." I feel borrow time. If I come, can you go? Sorry, I just
today is Sunday.
I know.
But I don't think you go to church if you are interested in having them colonize us.
No. Anyway, thank you again. Good evening, everybody, and it's glad to be here. Unfortunately, I don't know how I used to miss the great people anytime they come, you know. I was waiting. Suddenly, I fell asleep. My waking up again was that he was now answering the last questions, you know. You see, he said something that I enjoyed there. That in every society, there must be people who will be pushing the fire. He doesn't want to join the politics because he won't have that opportunity, just like our P2B now. The question I wanted to ask him, I think somebody asked him that about P2B going to join people like El Rufai. This is the problem I have, Dr. Damages. I don't know what P2B was thinking. Why don't we try sometimes in Nigeria? That was the question I would have asked him. Why don't we just sometimes stand on our own? Let the people know who we are. P2B did extremely very well with Alhaji Danti and the Nigerian people, which are the obedience. Though they took away that score from us. But my problem, and I'm telling you now, I'm not joking, this is worrying me every blessed day. Why did P2B go and join these people? Maybe somebody can share that answer for me. Why? Why must we be
I have the answer.
a president of that Nigeria? Why must we? He told us humbly that he's not forcing to be, desperate to be. But him joining El Rufai, is it that without El Rufai, you know, Nigeria get as it be? Oh boy, if you know say one be president, talk to these guys. Is that what happened? Thank you.
All right. Stay humble.
Yes.
He said, I think you have an answer for him. Go
yes.
ahead.
So, if you joined earlier, unfortunately, you didn't when he was asked a number of questions by Dr. Damages before people were given the opportunity to start asking questions. He mentioned a scenario, something that happened in Lagos just recently. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, when a group of people, I think Labour Party members or ex-Labour Party members, who organized a ceremony to defect to ADC, and they were attacked by the dogs. So he mentioned that is just a prelude to what will happen during the election. That 2027 election will be quoted violence, you know. And if you look at Bola Tinubu, for example, there is a pattern of politics that he's played since 1999. You know, he's played politics of, he's used the weapon of violence and ethnicity. He's always played the politics of ethnicity. So he has that in his arsenal. So I think that they were going to isolate P2B and his followers and try as much as possible, because they have the weapon, they have the armory, they have the media. They also have some international backers. Try to make them look like ethnic, politicians. So I think that P2B has seen the big picture. In fact, during the campaign for 2023 election, he discouraged some people from coming out openly to campaign for him based on the fact that those people's businesses will be affected because they were young people coming up in their business and they already had a grant. So that ethnic politics is still very much active, and it will be activated big time by Bola Tinubu for the election. So Obi was looking for a bigger, a bigger camp, where he would have some sort of protection. Because whether you like it or not, Obi is being attacked left, right, and center, and he has refused to even say the details of what he's gone through, and they are mostly ethnic. So he's looking for a bigger camp, a bigger umbrella. And when you say that he joined the former Kaduna State governor, no, they were already planning the opposition before El-Rufai joined them. Immediately after the 2023 litigations and the rest of them, P2B and Atiku met and started planning for a coalition, even before the likes of El-Rufai, Arebe Shola, etc. joined them.
Okay, thank you. Stay humble. We have about 10 more minutes. In that time, I would like to quickly, if I can, get to one people who didn't get a chance to weigh in, and then any other person who might want to add something. But KJ is going to have a after show where you can go in details about what happened and have your time to discuss whatever angle you want to. So let me come to, I think the first person is Oti. Oti, go ahead.
Hello, yeah, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, of course, I listened and followed his discussion, but I don't think I have any questions for him. But first of all, let me just maybe also answer recolonization's question in my own way. He may not like what I'm going to say, but it's an answer to his question. So, recolonization. Then, but I'm not sure you. I would encourage you to maybe to begin to take it a little bit more seriously. He's a politician, okay, and politics is about interest. This they join these coalitions and they come together. It's not because they love themselves or they have it's the interest. They have to find where they can leverage their advantages. So if you that's the way you look at it. It's not. I mean, it's not. It doesn't mean that he believes or has any commonality with Rufai or any person in that coalition. It's just to make the best of the opportunity he sees. So he's serious about his presidential ambition. So really, I think asking this question for me is the wrong question. I mean, that's. But anyway, I think Stay Humble did justice to your question. It was, quite perhaps too elaborate in answering the question. But anyway, so I listened to Professor
Odinkalu.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he did very well. I think where it comes to this Nigerian issue, his view again compelling. Maybe that the East, for example, with the Igbos, we could concentrate or first deal with our region, develop it, But the question to me is this: how long is that going to take? In the meantime, yes, Nigeria is. I mean, it goes on, right? So even while we're working very hard to make the best of our region, we're still part of Nigeria, and of course the disadvantages, the impediments that the entity presents, it's not going to go away. So I don't know what I mean. I think I will go with that. Let's just kind of try and develop the region and then see how we make the best of the opportunities Nigeria presents. So and it's not I don't think there's an easy answer to really the situation where Nigeria disintegration or unification, but a conversation we need to first take place. Let the people think about these things. It's not an easy. I don't think there are going to be any easy options. You see, in the end, it may well be everybody will go their separate ways. So,
all right.
Okay.
Thank you, Janaba. And then we do a lottery and pick one more person before we end, or two. Okay, I'll pick Jim. Janaba, where are you?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. You're next.
Thank you so much.
Did you watch the interview?
Yes, I did. And there's a guy that I used to like, a very intelligent guy. He called Peter Obi a prostitute and he denied it when you asked him. I give a credit to Tinubu for stick with APC for 20 years. That kind of thing is doesn't, I mean, trying to work on the fine line, but which I believe it will be the most 21st century party prostituting that I ever see. He will end up being even in APC before you know it, if you have a chance to become anything. And that kind of legacy of you come, I think Peter Obi hijacked a movement. When Nigerians want to move forward, he hijacked it with his sweet talk. And I mean, he's a public man, he's a lawyer, he work on that fine line. He doesn't want to call him a prostitute in the real thing. When you show him, oh, this is what they say, he's not a politician. I mean, he's a smart guy, you know. But we don't have anything to lose with the bid. I personally don't have anything. Peter Obi is a party prostitute in 21st century we ever see in Nigeria. I will not be surprised if he end up in APC, if they offer him anything tangible. He says he's not desperate. Peter Obi was desperate is understatement. And he played that what the governor of Anambra said, that is Soludo, on the lockdown. He also worked on the fine line there. He says that he think he should talk to the people, assuring them of their security and all of that, which yesterday I said that I think he could have go behind a closed door. But this is what we have. It's a power play. These people, they don't. I like him, more than Peter Obi. But I don't like the approach of trying to go and walk. Nobody that want to close down. We know it costs the local people and the East, and even the whole Africa money. That is the biggest market hub. Go and do that on that walk instead of this bragado issue of rolling camera like all those teenagers. I think he should do better. But regardless, what I like in him is more than what I can disagree, especially when it comes to national politics and people who do it the way they want to do it. Um, he's a good guy. He's a lawyer. You know, you don't expect anything. I'm not a lawyer. Can say anything and get away with it. But he chooses work carefully. You know, when you have nothing to lose on the contents from certain things, you can say anything like me, and I can say it like the way I feel, but he will not. And there are things I will say, some certain things that I will not say because I have something to lose. Everybody protect their primary interest. So it doesn't make me to hate him otherwise, but I think if I were him, I would be blunt enough, since I already say it in one way, people are not stupid. I'll be blunt, I say, yes, he's a party prostitute. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Janaba. Chim.
Yeah, so Rudolph, first of all, on a lighter note, do you usually like the show as the moderator? Do you like the show?
I don't even know where they do that. No, I can't do that unless I go to YouTube. I think it's still
it doesn't matter. You can like your show. So why I'm bringing that up is we keep trying to get the show to have likes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's funny when I look across all the boards with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the 10 people here haven't even liked the show. I'm sure if I ask everyone here, lots of people have just come to the show, but none of them has liked it. And then we're trying to grow.
I have liked the show.
I believe you. I believe you. But you can see for the rest who have kept quiet, they know they are guilty. Anyway, all right. So what I just wanted to bring up is yesterday we had a conversation where we were discussing how the Southeast should grow. So I align myself with Professor Odinkalu on look inwards first. When you've conquered inwards, then you can start looking outwards. So I think the best thing Southeasterners and Igbos will do for themselves is use the resources you have, build yourself first, then you can start fighting the national fight. That's one. Then the other thing is, I think by now we should be mature enough to come here and have conversations without, struggling the mic to defend their favorite politician or castigate their most. I know, yes, we castigate our president. Why? Because he's the one in office right now. So we want him to do better. But I don't think, Oti, if recolonization expresses his views, this constant effort to fight for P2B that many of us do here, I don't think is necessary. We actually do more harm to him when we always push to try to defend him. I think P2B needs to go out there and defend himself. If elections come now and I'm eligible to vote, I will vote for him. Especially if it's the same characters that are on the ballot, I would vote for him. Doesn't matter. But I disagree with some of his politics. I can say that, but I will still vote for him. I think he's a better person, irrespective of what anybody may say. I think he's way better than the guy who's falling around, the guy who's snatching and running around. But that said, I also believe he lost a lot of opportunities following the aftermath of the 2023 elections, and in the instances of how he handled one or two things. The governor of Abia State has refused to leave Labour Party. He says he's going to contest under the umbrella of Labour Party, which I think is that's courage. That's the kind of thing, that is the only thing that Tinubu did that I still respect him for. He was in AD, he stood his ground in AD, was the last man standing, which is why Tony Elumelu called him the last man standing when he came to see him. Say whatever you want to say about him. I have my issues with Tinubu, but I respect him for having the courage to stay in a sinking party, stood his ground, and then he built his fortress from that party, moved from AD to AC, and then of course when he realized he needed a handshake across the Niger, he did that to build a stronger base. Do you understand? So I think that is where P2B right now is. If anybody calls him a prostitute, they will have their points, because he's moved from ABGA to PDP. In fact, actually, he moved from PDP to ABGA, from ABGA back to PDP, from PDP to Labour, from Labour, now we've gone to this other place. It doesn't really paint him in a good light. Whatever we want to say, it doesn't. It actually shows a bit of desperation, as much as he might say he's not being desperate. But if you outline Tinubu, Atiku, himself, or whoever else on a ballot, I will vote for him, because as far as I'm concerned, he's a better candidate. But if there's someone else who shows up that is way better than all of them, then I probably would not vote for Tinubu. And I have some of those candidates in my head. So I think let's stop all this whole, if somebody expresses their views about P2B, then we think it's our divine right and we must come and explain. You don't know what P2B is thinking, so you have no responsibility to come and explain yourself for him. I think it's just needless.
All right, thank you. I wanted to ask you, did anybody do that? But again, maybe I wasn't listening, and that happened yesterday. I don't want to. The fact I'm here doesn't mean I'm paying attention to. There's so many other things. All right, let me just one more person. I see Mazopara. I know you didn't get a chance to join us. We'll bring you up, and yeah, just briefly, because we are out over time, and I think KJ is ready for the after show where we do a deeper diagnosis of what happened. Go ahead, Mazopara.
Yeah, good afternoon from here. Yeah, I listened halfway, but I would have liked to ask him if he has submitted his white paper commission.
Yeah, he did.
He has done that.
Yeah, I didn't get to that. Yeah.
So I was stopping Chief Soludo to making it public. Did anyone ask him that?
No, we didn't get to that conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
There were many things we didn't get to. Yeah, but he did.
Okay, fine. And the second, I would have liked to ask him what problem has he with Wike, because always when I read his post, he always attack the young man. Is there anything he has against him? Anyway, that would have been my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Who attacks who? Are you talking about Soludo Wiki attacking?
No, Professor Odinkalu, are you not reading his posts? About Wiki?
Oh, okay. No, they're after each other. I mean, they have this long.
Okay, yeah.
But for those who are watching, if you want to know more of his opinion on the judiciary and the judicial system in Nigeria, he has this book that was published last year, The Selectorate, When Judges Topple the People. It's on Amazon. You can get a copy and read for yourself. And I'm happy. It's always good when we have a guest and we have people who read the book and the book of the guest, if they are writers. It helps to make the conversation more in depth, like the question that came from Chim, who read the book. All right. Ife, final words before I round up the show, just because you are the only,
Just don't pretend, I beg.
You are the only Assam Pete.
Oh my God.
All right.
See, my country, Nigeria, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. It seems like Nigeria is irredeemable at this point, honestly. I don't think anybody has solution to fix Nigeria. Whoever that wins the next election, even Obi, I don't think he has the solution to fix Nigeria. Let's even assume that he wins the next election and he becomes a president and he starts to do something. After that, what about the person that comes behind him? So that is where the problem of Nigeria is. Chidi said that regionalization is not a discussion. Then what are we going to do? Because at this point, we are sinking, or rather, we already sank. I don't know. Honestly, Papudoka, I can't wrap my head around what is going on in Nigeria. Are we dealing with the tribal war? Are we dealing with the religious war? I've been going from one channel to another, listening to people's opinion. It's like nobody's saying anything tangible. Everybody's still beating around the bush because there is still no solution to fix what is going on in Nigeria. So I don't know. If I know the answer, I will tell you. But I'm just sitting down here watching. I love my country. I want us to stay together. But at this point, it's not working. It's not feasible for us to be as a nation. And that's why I always said, let everybody go their separate ways. If that's going to help us to build our country, so be it. Let everybody go your separate ways, period.
All right. Thank you. On that note, we are going to end it. We are going to reconvey. KJ will now give us another 3 hours of analysis of what happened. On that note, I want to thank those that supported us. Oscar Blackstone, thank you so much. Stitch Music, thank you so much. George Blue Shell, thank you so much. Igbo Basics. I don't think we got to the question of Igbo Basics. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And those that watched at home, thank you for joining us. Next Sunday, we are going to again bring you another interesting guest. I'm talking to a few people. I haven't confirmed any, but I will let you know for those who are following us on Facebook and Instagram. Let me also thank those produce this show behind the scene, my executive producer, you guys know, show, and all the other people who are helping with videos and things like that. We appreciate all of you. And then thank you, Ife, for being here. Thank you, Stay Humble. Thank you, John Abba. Thank you, KJ. Thank you, Oti. Thank you, We Recolonize. Recolonization, thank you. Thank you, Mazapara. Thank you, Chim. And thank you to everybody who joined us in the studio. Until next Saturday, all the best.
Tó fẹ́ kú torí ẹ̀. Ọwọ́ ẹni ló ti ṣàánú kọ́.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Have you subscribed? Yes, you. Have you subscribed? You. Yeah, before you go, click. It's free. Click. Just that's it. Have you subscribed? You are laughing. Have you subscribed? Have you subscribed? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, madam, thank you so much. I can see you. I can see you. We have to get to 100,000 subscribers. This by the end of the year. How are we going to do that if you don't subscribe? Yes, you. Yes, you're about to click off. Why? Have you subscribed? It's free. If you don't, ask your son, ask your daughter how to. Just one click. Thank you. Thank you. I see you. Aha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
Chukuna malugo yo biadiocha Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Owe chuku bezie chuku Nuche chukwa busigi fegemeo Nuche chukwa busia ifegemeo Nifo solo ne asi alibazie Oboye bebe agaranya muliba Oboye wuru agaranya mebibe solea Mano garanya wua Oboye afyozi enipakwa Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Oboye chikubezi olisa